not only is she twerking, she's now sucking berries, and it is all desperate, but she is desperate, and you can see the desperation in her face.
Lady Colin Campbell, can we please talk about Meghan's deranged social media activity over the past few days? I mean, so firstly, we have this cocktail hour with her and her BFF, which apparently was actually recorded days before the July 4th weekend. But of course, she had to brief to Marie Claire that she was in Princess Diana's bracelet. But she's almost starting to look psychopathic now. She's not really covering up her personality. I mean, did you see the sucky with the berries, Lady C? I mean, it's all quite revolting. How on earth does she think that this is playing well for her?
Well, I think she thinks that any attention is better than no attention at all. And she understands that she needs to have a lot of attention because the Netflix contract is coming up for renewal, and there are significant issues within Netflix about the terms upon which anything will be renewed, and that no matter what renewal there is going to be at the absolute minimal level. I think this is desperation time for her. And yeah, so she was sucking the berry. She shows she has talents where her tongue's concerned. What can I tell you? She's revealing yet again where her true talents lie. Not only is she twerking, she's now sucking berries, and it is all desperate, but she is desperate, and you can see the desperation in her face. uh and I mean, somebody made a comment on my channel that it seems that narcissists, as they get older, find it impossible to conceal the underlying nasty person. And I think that's true. Meghan is struggling now to actually maintain an attractive facade. And we are seeing not only the join, but we are seeing the underlying rot. So it's almost as if we're seeing Dorian Gray, and his picture has been taken out of the attic and it's now beside Dorian. And we're seeing Dorian and his picture, and we're seeing fake Meghan and true Meghan. And I think I would have sympathy for her because I think she's really deranged, if she wasn't so malicious and spiteful and nasty. But having sympathy for Meghan would be a Jewess having sympathy for the National Socialists in 1941. I mean, you don't have sympathy for people who are patently destructive. You maybe after they have been, shall we say, remedied, then you might be able to say, oh, well, I have sympathy for them. But while the struggle's on, you dare not have sympathy for them, because they will take advantage of it the way they take advantage of everything else.
Oh, without any doubt. And is it not odd, Lady C? I mean, July the 4th, Independence Day weekend, it's a great family weekend in the US. But of course, because things are just so bad with Prince Harry at the moment, and he is struggling so much, we don't see him at all, although she does reference him in her post, where she tells the story, if we're meant to believe this story, Lady C, of the cupcakes and the first date. Our second date was the 4th of July 2016, and H brought me cupcakes to celebrate. Now, all these years later, our two children are in on the tradition. Happy Independence Day. May your day be as sweet as these cupcakes. But we don't see the children, Lady C, at all. We don't see Harry at all. The only time we've seen him recently is when he was dragged out for that Nexus speech because he needed to pocket the 250 grand or whatever it is in New York. And what we do see is an old picture of Harry and Meghan together. It's like something doesn't add up here. What's really going on? Can you believe that more than half of you are watching this video but not subscribed? So please do me a huge favor, click the subscribe button now, turn on the notification bell so you'll be alerted to all of our brand new Outspoken videos.
Well, my understanding is that both of them are collapsing, each in his and her own way, and their collapses are different, and that their struggles are different. So I think she's trying to present a united facade, and doubtless he will, as long as he thinks it's necessary, will cooperate. But my understanding is that things are pretty dire. You know, I've said it before and I'll say it again. When hunger comes in through the door, love goes out the window. And they are collapsing financially, and they have collapsed reputationally. I mean, the corpse is obvious, but because the corpse isn't buried yet, some people think the corpse is still alive. But the corpse is not alive. The corpse is dead. And it's just a matter of burying their reputation. And the mere fact that this is coming in from all angles and in all departments as well. And as with all of these things, they have a snowballing effect. You know, you had Vanity Fair, Hollywood Reporter, Page 6. You have the Daily Beast, never used to ever say anything that was untoward. So you have all of this going on now. Meghan and Harry, well, certainly Meghan will know that the party's over. It's just a matter of clearing up the mess. And the band might still be playing, but are they going to be able to have money to ask the band to extend its remit? I doubt it. So let's see. But I think she is desperate, and she looks increasingly not only desperate but deranged. You know,
she really does. She really does. And of course, part of the people who have had to be sacked, Lady C, in this desperate bid to save money are her communications professionals as well. So arguably, it's only going to get worse.
Well, I mean, she's gone through PR people the way a dose of salt goes through children. And, you know, there was Sunshine Sacks and the 2.6 million that was owed to them. And then, of course, they had to part ways with Sunshine Sacks. And then there have been others and others and others and others. But Meghan is also now back on Instagram. She is in direct communication with her world and her admirers. And she has no judgment. She has a filter, but a filter without judgment can be worse than lack of judgment and no filter, because if you have lack of judgment and no filter, at least people see something authentic. Meghan, with her filter, and everything's perfect, and I'm perfect, and am I not beautiful? And look at my fabulous life, and that man loves me so much, and his children just adore me. They worship at me. That's why they have to grab me as if they are going to hang on for dear life in case I just jettison them. And she gives very negative messages, and long may it continue, because I think Meghan is a force for destructiveness, and I want to see her totally exposed so that we can get on with the business of leading constructive lives without this carping, harpy and hussy constantly jumping on bandwagons to promote herself and often at the expense of valued institutions. Because let's remember, Meghan's actions have created tremendous destructiveness all over the world. You know, it's not just a matter of the daily press. It's a matter of the damage she has wrought in the Commonwealth, the damage she has caused in this country, the damage she has caused worldwide. I mean, when you stop to think, this is a woman who was given the opportunity by Queen Elizabeth to increase racial harmony, instead of which she set out to be as destructive racially as she possibly could. I think she needs to be stopped, and I'm delighted to see that she's finally being exposed.
She really is. Lady C, I also want to ask you about Prince Harry's relationship with Camilla, the Queen, because this interview with Anderson Cooper, it's really interesting. It's gone viral again this week after Camilla's appearance at Wimbledon. Here's just a reminder about what he had to say of the King's wife. But first, these days we're living through economic whiplash, soaring prices, vanishing savings, and headlines that seem designed to confuse more than inform. We're told that this is all normal, that history is being rewritten for our own good, and that embracing these changes is the only path forward. But every outlet tells a different version of reality, and the so-called fact checkers are just enforcing the approved narrative. Luckily, there's a solution. It's Ground News. It's hands down the easiest way to stay informed. It cuts through all the bias and spin so you can actually see what's going on and make up your mind. I have it on my phone and in my bookmarks online because it's become so essential to my daily life, and I'd love you to check it out for yourself at ground.news/outspoken. I'm going to tell you about a huge discount in a moment. But first, I just want to show you this website and app in action. So let's take one story, but you could use any story. But we're going to take the story of Donald Trump agreeing to cut tariffs on UK auto, steel, and aluminium as part of a trade deal with Britain, one that could reshape global trade and has sparked debate on both sides of the political aisle. Now, you can see quite clearly in one place on Ground News that over 500 sources are covering the story. Ground News then instantly shows how the story is being covered by the media, broken down by whether they leave to the left or the right. This is called the bias distribution chart. Then if you scroll down, you can see every headline about the story along with the political bias and ownership of the publication. Most of the coverage is from outlets in the political centre, but here's where it gets interesting. 49% of the sources come from outlets owned by giant media conglomerates. So no wonder the narratives feel so coordinated, right? When looking at the headlines, the left covered the story with skepticism. Wired fixated on the struggling reputation of Jaguar and framed the deal as a potential way to resurrect the brand. Bloomberg chose vague language, calling it a framework, which subtly questions whether the deal is even real. But the coverage on right-leaning outlets far more confident, with GB News celebrating a major victory for UK auto manufacturers and the New York Sun calling it a full and comprehensive trade deal that strengthens US-UK ties. Now, my favourite feature of Ground News is the blind spot feed. Every day, it will surface upwards of 20 stories that receive the majority of coverage from one side of the political spectrum. If you love the news like I do, the blind spot feed is the best way to get a balanced perspective on what's happening. So go to ground.news/outspoken, or if you're watching on YouTube or Rumble, just scan the QR code on screen to subscribe today. You will get 40% off the same Vantage plan I use for unlimited access. That's ground.news/outspoken for 40% off this incredible service. But now, back to the show.
She was the third person in the marriage. She needed to rehabilitate her image.
You and your brother both directly asked your dad not to marry Camilla.
Yes.
Why?
We didn't think it was necessary. We thought that it was going to cause more harm than good, and that if he was now with his person, that surely that's enough.
You wrote that I even wanted Camilla to be happy. Maybe she'd be less dangerous if she was happy.
Mm-hmm.
How was she dangerous?
Because of the need for her to rehabilitate her image.
That made her dangerous.
That made her dangerous because of the connections that she was forging within the British press. And there was open willingness on both sides to trade of information. And with a family built on hierarchy, and with her on the way to being Queen Consort, there was going to be people or bodies left in the street because of that.
And like Colin Campbell, I think the reason that this has gone viral again this week is because the Queen appeared at Wimbledon and received rapturous applause when she entered the arena.
As she deserved. As she deserved.
Yeah, and
She's a good one.
well, indeed.
You
and
know,
sorry, Lady C, you
so
go on. No, you go on.
No, you go on.
Well, I was just going to say, and all of a sudden, it's like the British public are like, hang on a moment. Okay, it was terrible that you came for the King, and it was terrible that you came for William, and it was even worse that you came for Catherine. But there's almost a sense now, hang on, this criticism of Camilla, which was so vile, was lost in the mixed. And actually, she's become increasingly popular, as that reception at Wimbledon this week proved. I mean, it was rapturous applause. It was the sort of applause, Lady C, you'll remember when Catherine walked in to the centre court last year.
Well, you know, Camilla deserves it. Camilla has been a good and loyal wife, and Camilla was a good and loyal girlfriend. And I knew Diana. I'm the person who revealed all the secrets that Andrew Morton got credit for, because my book, Down in Private, was published months before his panegyric. And he was then given credit by Andrew Neil and the Sunday Times for what I had revealed. And then the mainstream media just ran with that. And I knew Camilla's brother. I'd known Camilla's brother since 1973. We were great friends. He was a really great guy. And I've met Camilla and the sister, Annabelle, blah, 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 but I've never been really friendly with them. I was friendly with Mark. But Camilla is much misunderstood and much traduced. And I have made this point all along. Now, Diana traduced Camilla, but Harry, in that interview, came up with a series of misinformation that really he should know better. First of all, there were not 3 people in the marriage. I'm not going to say how many there were because I'm not going to traduce Diana, but take it from me. There was Charles, Camilla, Diana, and a host of other men. So if Diana had wanted to use the number 3, let's put it this way, she should have been adding at least another letter, if not in front, behind, and maybe 2 letters in front as well as behind. And Harry has to know this because everybody knows it. So that's the first lie. The second lie is that Camilla wanted to marry Charles and become Queen Consort. That, again, Harry knows is a lie. Camilla was perfectly content to remain Charles's inamorata. Charles is the one who wanted to marry Camilla. So where does Harry come up with this rubbish from? He's trying to destroy Camilla.
Yes, he is.
And he's trying to do it not only because he thinks it will make him money, but because he is going to be able to blackmail his father into buying his silence so that he can then live in California with that strumpet, as the Queen called her, the late Queen. And it's not happening. The games that Harry and Meghan play are so vicious and so nasty. I cannot exaggerate enough how nasty they are. And it astonishes me that people cannot, I was going to say it astonishes me that people cannot see through it. But more and more people are finally starting to see through it. And thank God, because Camilla does not deserve any of what she has received from Harry. And she was actually quite nice to Harry, and Harry was really nice to her. I
Mm,
mean, Harry has totally rewritten history
yep.
since he has been with Meghan. You know, she has really flipped him.
But Lady C, doesn't it also show that Harry is totally naive in terms of thinking that he can just move on and pretend that these comments were never made? Because the problem is we live in the internet world. And what's so fascinating to me is that his comments on Camilla are getting more coverage this week, arguably, than they even did when he first made them to Anderson Cooper. And that is the problem. Those interviews are never going to disappear.
No, they aren't. But Dan, you're a professional. You know the way the media works. And that's a phenomenon that often happens. I mean, I, for instance, in my Diana book, my Dan in Private in 1992, made the point that Diana had Indian blood and therefore, under the one drop rule, was a woman of color. And 25 years later, the Times of India took that story and made it front page news after William gave them DNA to prove that it was true, which also goes to show that when William said we're definitely not a racist family, he certainly put his money where his mouth was, because he had done this before Harry made those accusations. I make that point for what it's worth. So I think if you look at it from that point of view, but yes, you're absolutely right. Something, once it's written, well, they say a word once uttered can't be recalled. And if it's in writing, my mother always said, be very careful what you put in writing, because once it's in writing, it's set in stone. And Harry has now, not only has he written, but he has given endless interviews, which is the modern day term version of writing, which means that things are set in stone. And there will be other aspects to all of this, which with the passage of time will be alighted upon, because you can't cover everything at the same time. And something becomes topical, and oh, there's that, and it's focused upon. So that's really what's happening. But I mean, the way he has treated his stepmother is an absolute disgrace.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to tell you as well, I get constant reports of the fact that Harry and Meghan's squaddies are busy working behind the scenes, spreading the vilest lies about Camilla and making all sorts of claims about her conduct and her ambitions, all of which are untrue. Very occasionally I address it, but I do it only very occasionally, because I'm not prepared to give these jerks the oxygen that they would like with
No,
a full
here.
love.
Here. Well, Lady C, something that is set in stone, though, is that you were our greatest Britain on Monday, because yet again you pulled off the event of the summer. It was such an honour for me to be at Castle Goring for your incredible annual ball, raising money for Care for Veterans. Lady C, people had travelled from all around the world. Okay, the weather wasn't as good this year, it has to be said, but what a special, incredible night. Were you happy?
Dan, I cannot tell you how overjoyed I am that everybody had such a good time, and that people came from all over the world, and that everybody had a really good time. Everybody loved the food, everybody loved the drink, everybody loved the service, everybody loved each other. And most important of all, not only did everybody have a good time, but they loved the cause, which is a
Yes.
wonderful cause. So may I ask you to post something saying that if
Yes.
anybody watching this wishes to make a donation to Care for Veterans, would they please feel free to do so, and say that they did it via Dan Wootton?
Yes, what I'm going to do is put a link in the description of this video on YouTube. So people will be able to find the link in the description on YouTube if they want to donate. But it was an absolutely amazing night. Such an honor to be there, Lady Colin Campbell. And of course, for much, much more from Lady C, make sure you subscribe to her brilliant, unmissable YouTube channel. And of course, if you do want first access to the Royal Uncancelled After Show here on Outspoken, without any ads, totally live or on demand, if you prefer Monday to Friday, then please do sign up at www.outspoken.live. That's www.outspoken.live. Lady C, we will speak very soon. Thank you. Thank you so much for watching Dan Wootton Outspoken. Please click on my face just to the bottom left to subscribe to this brand new independent news source and turn on the notification bell so you'll be alerted to our brand new live shows, uncancelled interviews, and special royal episodes. Outspoken is also now available as a podcast, so you can listen to the show every weekday on the go, wherever you are.